There's 17 people waiting.
I'm gonna do a lap in the parking lot, so maybe like 110 this week. Because he's like, it's packed. I'm gonna be like parking and walking.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sweet. Do YouTube stream says it's live, but users it says still waiting. It says waiting.
That's the link.
Which you yeah. Yeah, we start. Okay, great. Right. Yeah. No.
Oh, start like at one. Oh, nice, you got it. And so wait, we'll just chat. If someone has a question on the live stream, yeah. So if there's questions that come in on the live streams, we'll just raise them and ask them. So maybe what's the time is it? Let's do 5 more
Wait,
minutes.
let's for who's gonna ask this question. What you got it? Got it. Molly.
We were probably both about the same age.
Yes, I ended up with a really good house, amazing livelihood, to get the price for the house name. But now I'm on to a long-term solution to housing. Yes. This gets much more like probably my recipe, and it's much less kids, and it's more effort packages. I can have some concerns, you
Welcome, everyone. A lot of familiar faces. I've been in this building a lot because we have our annual Seco meetings here. And many of those meetings were very comfortable. By the way, my name is Christy. For those of you who don't know me. And I think as Cal saying was, we're used to attending meetings where we're here to oppose. And I think in general, as Americans, as global citizens, for a long time we've been in opposition to it. And for good reason. But as we all know, we get more energy by focusing on what we want and what we're against. And here's an opportunity to support something that could very well regenerate our community. And when I say regenerate, that word came to mind a lot ago when I met with John. And I thought, this is not a sustainable project. This goes beyond sustainability. The sustaining means to sustain what you currently have. What regenerate means to actually leave the place in better shape. And we have an opportunity now, we have to begin to regenerate our relationships. Relationship to self, relationship to community, and relationship. And with the earth, as you look at the details of this project, you'll realize that here is a project that actually aims to restore the soil, to improve water potential, to capture water, and recharge the aquifer more than extract it, to increase biodiversity. Imagine human development that have that kind of positive impact, that are healthy for the ecosystems. We see that in regenerative agriculture right now. We're growing food, or we grow food in such a way that the land improves every year. Well, development can be the same. And so I'm very curious about this project because Jonah isn't somebody that just came from outside our community. He was an unknown person. With the Tarleton project, I didn't know most of those people. I had never seen them. But he looked the part. The architect looked the part. He had a beard. I said, look at that. And he shared my values, but that was not the case. That was a facade. It was greenwashing. But this is not the case here. Because Jonah is a part of this. He cares about this community. And not only does he care about this community, but he has very strong principles when it comes to human habitation, human relationships, and the earth. So what I've seen, I am very impressed. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Jonah Reynolds. Thank you.
All right, wow, thank you. Thank you, Chris. My name is Jonah Reynolds. I just want to touch on a couple of things real quick. I want to give a shout out to Pangea Community for producing this event. Diggy Lloyd, Jason Seck, Eli Sablowski, Molly Casteza. Sorry if I mispronounced that. You guys are awesome. I'm so grateful for what you do. Yes. And then, I just want to start out by saying there are a lot of things you don't know that things I'm ignorant of. And I apologize in advance for using some incorrect words or descriptors about certain cultures or people, and I don't know. Personally, I would like to know, and we all need to know, to learn more and raise awareness, but that's not really my decision to make. It's the people in each culture, perhaps. That's just my opinion. So my name is Jonah Reynolds. I'm 51. I was born here when Holy Cross Hospital was across from the high school. My son was born here at the Military Center. Got married last year, maybe a little too young, but she's amazing. So I've been designing, building, off-grid sustainable buildings all over the world. Roughly 38 years or so, playing around job sites, and learned a lot. We do disaster relief, which we learned a lot. How other people live, what is appropriate, what is necessary, what is not necessary when we come back to the Western world. Everything we've been doing for all these decades with our team, we put into each building, each design. And before we finish the buildings, a lot of times they're obsolete because we learned so much. This project, I didn't know about Trev. I think I found out 8 months ago or something like that. I feel like I'm for saying that. I should have. And like a lot of people, I guess in a word, inappropriate. There's a lot of words to say. And so I was like, okay, that's interesting. You know, of course, my overthinking mind, I was like, well, could do it this way and that way. And, you know, first choice is no. I don't have control of that. That's my first choice. If I was independent, and had all that money, not miss it, that's what I would do. As well as a lot of other pieces, which I met at the tribal government in December, talking about some details that we'll get into, but this is all they're learning. But we're here today, and we're making the best of it. Okay, so our firm, Pangea Biotecture, we're a service architecture and construction company, right around 38 years of experience in the field all over the world, single-family residence, communities, retrofit models. The most sustainable building is the building that's already built. So, for example, we're doing a project in Los Alamos right now. We're taking conventional homes and retrofitting it to make it perform, you know, better. We're not doing all of the systems. And we have Pangea we teach all this stuff at the 501c3, where all of the student tuition is taxable. So I'm going to run through these slides, go over basically within these industries, and I'll add more details, of course. But my hope here is that we have a good amount of time for questions and answers and discussion. As Chris said, his hope here is, this is the dream of what a community can be. I have ideas, I'm pouring everything into it, but it's more than that. This isn't about a person, a last name, or a company. This is about the people, making safe the people. And we have a brilliant team that is growing, and That being said, the level of skill, expertise, decades of experience will be Taos. This is the solar capital of the world. It's the operate the sustainability capital of the world. So this community is the goal on every system: water, gray water, food, soil, energy. We're not connecting to the grid at all. And you know, these words: sustainable, off-grid, affordable. That's the most important. The purpose of this presentation, we want to share our idea. Nothing is set in stone. The numbers, how many buildings, which is about a third of the last project, it's not set in stone. I've been meeting with families on the Pueblo, off the Pueblo, tribal government for the last, I think, since August or so, learning about the outcome, which I'll get into, that's been happening on this property between there and all the way up to San Francisco. And the plan has adjusted and adapted as these meetings happen. I was talking with a client this morning who she's getting into retirement, but she's trying to country basically. So we've been doing so I've learned a lot there. And so to share the idea, we want to concerns, we want to talk about solutions and ideas. The poster, I think, the second one from the left, it's called Primary Concerns. From learning all about the 7-year fight against TRIA, learning about things that were in the paper and everything, and kind of coalesced all that into, at least to my current understanding, these are the concerns, these are potential solutions. And then we want to be absolutely transparent. We want this to be a collaboration, a team effort. But that being said, I am absolute control over this whole thing because the only way, personally, I can guarantee to myself and my team and everything that it's done right. And I'm hoping to define doing it right through these meetings. So that's the goal here with this. And forgive me if I talk a lot, but my goal is to get these slides through so we can get to questions, answers, and conversations. So why Taos and why now? I apologize for the light and the glare. I understand it might be a little bit. There are serious issues here. There are serious issues all over the world. Like I touched on disaster relief. I mean, we went to India to do a demonstration project and teach. And I don't know if any of you know what Venice Beach looks like. You know, amazing beach town, and they're all over like that. Imagine that just wiped. Elephants walking around with chains, and it's insane. There's no words to describe it. And seeing that, and then seeing the people there happy still, despite the crazy horror of going through that. Being in Haiti and working with the locals there. That's what I mean by what's appropriate. What do we really need? Do we need these, opulent buildings and all that? Well, who am I to say that people can't have that? But if you bring that kind of, I guess, appropriateness into everything. All the lectures I do, and I'm not getting so much into this one because I want to stay focused on the community, but I always say we're in an emergency room. We are critical. Our infrastructure is failing. One little thing, or look at these storms or earthquakes or whatever, people lose their homes. Look at these fires in LA. So it is serious, but in the Western world, we have insulation on this, so we're more comfortable, which is really where dreams go to die, comfort. So the specific issues, the challenges, affordable housing. We all know people, I'm assuming, who don't have a place to live. We're couch surfing, living out of their backpacks. A bunch of my friends of mine have left over the last 10 months. They can't afford housing there. It's off the charts. Water scarcity. This winter has been very dry. Then there's all the issues with wells and polluting aquifers The whole abate thing, which I definitely don't know everything about, but from what I understand, it isn't good. The amount of water that's being pulled out of the ground is bonkers. The amount of water that buildings use is bonkers. Food poverty. We're finishing up a prototype vertical jalapeno pueblo now. Taking longer than I wanted. But what we learned, just to touch on it real quick, is that once a month, there's a long line of cars that line up there where the Division of Natural Resources there buys food, same place conventional restaurants get from, and he hands out food. Because either they don't have enough, or they can't afford it, or whatever. So one of the missions that we're being asked to do is to produce a massive amount of food as well. We need to try and make a dent in that. So there's local food, it's more appropriate, and outside. So in addition to affordable housing, growing massive amounts of food in this community through micro farming, which we're wrapping with our off-grid living system so we can grow year round. Respect and honor for cultural heritage. That is critical. I mean, each one of these things are critical, but when we don't know about each other, we get ignorant, we make assumptions, gossip happens, and then there's a disconnect. One of the many things I love about this place is the people. I mean, it's just amazing, beautiful people, not just talented, but like, we've been all over the world and have built all of these places, France and India, Japan, and all these places, but if there's nothing like coming back home to Taos. And yeah, I'm biased, but the people here are amazing, the diverse cultures, and I know there's conflict and things, but that's one of the goals here, is to create a place where we can learn about each other. So we're looking at doing a cultural embassy is what we're calling it. And of course, conscious living. And those words are regenerative, sustainable, affordable, and off-grid, which we've been doing for decades. Buildings that have no utility bills, that have no fossil fuels. So, there's some solutions there in the text, but I pretty much just covered them. We catch all of the water from the sky, although in this, we might have a well or two or three as a backup. That will be metered to the pueblo, that will pay for it. Massive food production, the cultural center, we're hoping, and I know there's been some talk on social media and stuff about an existing partnership, which does not exist yet. Like I said, I've met the tribal families, the tribal government from last year, and that's switched, so it's almost like starting again, which honestly is a little frustrating. But the goal is, to have an official partnership, and there's a lot of details in there. One of them is a cultural center where it is designed to their direction, and they run it. We help, but that cultural center should educate and show all of our cultures, which is what the governor last year told me. Let's see, and then the off-grid living systems, all solar power. We are going to do micro hydro. There's a creek here that seems to run and it's amazing how much power you can make from micro hydro. Maybe, and I say maybe just because it has parts, modules, so they're not reliable. Although we do have a design, of course, uses takes a lot of energy off of a little amount of it. But then there's the little thing. Water supply, we're capturing wastewater. We treat all of our wastewater on site. The goal is not to have leach fields, leach anything in, which pollutes the aquifers. I think we can make that happen, basically free outside of chemical save money. We heat and cool the buildings by tapping into the state temperature, which is about 59 degrees under the frost line. We have cooling tubes, we have passive solar. The goal of this presentation is not to get granular with things. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to touch on them. I really want to get into the community. Suffice it to say, everything is off-grid, no fossil fuels. The only thing that we might tap into is a well or two, which I'll get into it soon. I tend to be a little overcritical with things, but I just want to point being extremely granular with everything. This is, in my humble opinion, the dream. This is what we've always dreamed about doing, is touching on everything. So here's the overview. I have another slide. I'll explain everything. I think once I do that, we're looking at about 100 buildings total. Again, nothing is set in stone. But what you see here, and I'll repeat color, neighborhood association zones. I've spent a lot of weeks, a lot of late nights and everything, fitting this whole idea of a ideal community into the existing zoning and regulations so that we don't get any variances. So that's what this is. I had a clean slate, and they were different, but we have requirements, codes, and all that. Not about the building, it's about the zoning. So we're doing everything in circles because it's more affordable to survey that, and then we get to have all the land in between common land that we're going to lock down with a nonprofit so it can do roughly half of all the property. So 111 buildings, 80 right now are residential. 28 right now are commercial. And we'll get into the details of that. Low density, off grid. Musha is obviously very important, especially and the north and then the south. There's a hill on the left, so it's not much of a view shed when you're looking from the west because everything drops down. But again, affordable housing is first priority. I'm designing those, getting those in, and making everything else work for that. So we'll have this slide again, so be more familiar about what we're looking at. Here are the residential zones. The affordables are $500 a month for rent. That's where we started. The idea of when I say affordable, I am mostly homeless, couch surfing, living out of the backpacks, not remember the stress, the anxiety, and trauma that goes along with that was just insane. Nobody should have to deal with that. So that's where I'm starting. There's a spectrum of what we can define as affordable. On this end of the spectrum is $500 a month utility bills. There's one in the middle. There's one, I guess you could say, slightly higher. That's probably $1,000 a month or so, and we're figuring that out. But every one of these units is $500 a month. The idea of people who need affordable housing are something I do not agree with. Putting up 30 grand, 40 grand is like 25% down to finance. All the paperwork, it's just, no. It's way too stressful, in our opinion. And so that's why we're doing this. We're starting at $500 a month. We're getting that in. As far as I understand, and I've heard this from multiple places, there's over 300 homes being tested. So that's that's what I'm attacking, if you will. And I got to move as fast as possible because, especially when food scarcity. So we have three different terms, affordable models or whatever. The one on the left there, again, county zone, will allow me to have 2 buildings, 10 doors each. So there's 20 doors. I think all in, we're at 108 doors in this community. So, there's 10 to 10 right there. A couple others where there's less affordable units in them. Again, just trying to get that low impact, low density thing. That's one in the middle. The green circle in the middle is fine for the people who are living there, which is also wastewater attendants. I'll get into that. The circle on the right, senior affordable housing. Working with Judy Cantu to do some of these on her property, right? And I think I met with her and a couple others that hit me on, well, Arlington's nice, but we have the seniors. So I was like, oh, yeah. Like I said, I can't cover everything. That's why I'm doing this, I'm meeting families and everything. So we're doing something to seniors also, but each one of these, the idea is 500 a month. Because everything's on here. The workforce. I didn't really know what workforce was until about a year ago. As far as I'm concerned, it's just another spectrum of workers. I guess that's what they call it. The size of each unit is a little bigger, around 1,700 square feet, maybe 50 square feet-ish, but the same idea. This circle here is the county required setback. And depending on where, the 2-acre one on the left, I think wants to be 50 feet, the 1-acre one on the right, I think that's 30 feet. So that's why it's like that. Again, you see the green in the middle, the farming, so that's the workforce. And so, like I said, as far as I'm concerned, those are just a spectrum of affordable, and there's different numbers with each residential zone and each building size. I'll get into the materials and we have something there to keep the cost a little bit low, but that's the workforce residential zones. And market value. One, the workforce and the market value is what allows us to move forward. There is no money in profit in forest. There should be. It's a break-even thing. So these types of projects, as well as production, commercial, and businesses, and pretty much everything else, allows us to do the affordables at $500 a month. So the investors and the business partners, like me, I told them 500, like, it's insane. A lot of people told me that. I'm like, too bad. That's what's needed. And we got to figure it out. Which we pretty much have. Like I said, that makes sense. We're finalizing some things. But that's the idea with the market value. Right, we're looking at 2 buildings per 1-acre thing, which is again a something thing. You'll see a lot of these are 2 buildings, but a number of acres each. Again, everything is off-grid, everything is great water planners installed and all that. Commercial zones. We did the, I just realized I didn't tell you everything else, but you probably have already assumed. My name is Jonah Reynolds. My father is Michael Reynolds. Doing the worships out there with the Greater World Worship Community and all over the world. That's what I grew up in. So just that connection, if you didn't know already. But we did the worship community out there. And that was just basically, here's land, here's a bunch of residential buildings. My opinion is that's kind of a mistake or a bit of a failure, but at the same time, I've also been told, and I totally see it, where it's still an amazing, sustainable, off-grid community, and people don't have utility bills, power goes out in town, we're good, they're doing food, they're warm in the winter, so it's amazing out there. And the other thing that we noticed is that when people are employed to take care of them, the stress struggle to live, the 9 to 5, the worrying about paying the gas bill, or worrying if you're going to freeze, or the gas is going to go, all those things, those don't exist. People become nicer to each other. They hang out together, they're nicer to themselves. That's a significant thing that we were planning. And so the idea here, again, this is like the great is like the dream, is well, we need to have that kind of commercial idea, concept. Humans need structure. We need structured discipline. If it's all absolutely none of that, people tend to argue. It's just what I've noticed. And fight about things, like oh, no, we should do compost here, or the recycling there. It's like, okay, we got bigger fish to fry. I don't want to sound judgy, but in terms of the community, that's things that we noticed. So the idea here is to have some commercial stuff designed. And, for example, the market. And they're all saying something circles, these are all two things. But the market, we're not doing like a grocery store. It's basically a step up from the idea of a co-op. All the local farmers, experts. I'm not a food expert, but it might look like it because the gray water planters can put plants in there and it takes berserk. I'm from Hazelwood Park. I don't know what I'm doing, but that happens. And so the idea with the market is that it's kind of like a cutout, maybe a little step above, I don't know yet. But definitely no corporate chains whatsoever. No outside construction. It's all about tax. We're keeping the money, the taxes. And again, I've gotten feedback like you're not laborers. Like, well, we're going to figure it out. So we're looking at community arts and culture center. The next slide, these are things, but it's the same thing about the circular plots fitting into the county's units and having some kind of guidelines or restrictions, whatever. We'll call it like a sandbox about this is the way we want to do a farm to table regenerative restaurant type thing, right? For all of them there. And we are planning on doing 2 of those. Hotel sounds like big and crazy. So, maybe a better, and it's not just semantics, but a better description might be casita type things, right? Totally off grid. All of these systems, but we've had actually rental airships out there. That's one for Airbnb, and we found that's a really good way for people to realize, like, oh wow, this works. It's 20 below outside, right? So that the next step of that is, well, they might want to do. So kind of like the cultural embassy, the goal of these things is to raise awareness. We can live this way. It's not about figuring it out. It's just a matter of choosing. This has been around for decades, and like I'm saying, the town is through the roof to do these things. So some of the buildings we're looking at, retail, artisan shop, buildings, farm to table restaurant, cafe, one restaurant, one cafe. Food and animal synergy market. Synergy, this might be a little pet peeve of mine. Instead of animal husbandry, which is kind of thing about male too much. The overly critical stuff. Park units, that's one of two level buildings that we're using. Where you got the retail art studio thing, and then that person's living. As you probably are familiar with airships, we ground again to maintain the impact that you shed, so it's not some crazy thing. Health and wellness center. Yes, jacuzzi, hot tub, cold, whole spa, healing, acupuncture, chiropractor. That's what I'm looking at. The health experts to tell me how and the design and all that. Again, the whole, and I'm just calling it a commercial zone or commercial area right now, is trying to touch on all these things, growing food, healing, markets, all that. We plan to do research innovation hubs to research and innovate growing food, animals, how people live. Can we document the difference? Of course, people want to participate. Are we actually, I know we can document, are we healthier in this environment as opposed to the conventional, right? So that's all you, Taos, and educators and researchers. But even though we have this kind of tangible field experience like over the last 20-ish years, that only goes so far. For example, we can keep our buildings 3 feet off the ground, 60 degrees, no matter what's happening outside. I don't care if it's 20 below or 120 degrees. We've been doing that for decades. It's something I say at my lectures. I don't have any data or measures to back that up until a professor from the University of Arroyo came out with the two sensors in our buildings. It was exact, from what we were saying. Depending on the design, it might fluctuate. So that's kind of the idea of the research and innovation. Eco tours and logic here, I'm under the two hotels, like I said. One, kind of our, I guess, Earthship style, and then one, more of like a, maybe it's not the right word, a conventional type hotel. My concept there is just that the type of flavor of what we want to do with it is maybe not something that a lot of people in say the cities when they come to visit can really relate to. So I just, that's what we have so far. I'm assuming that might want more doors as opposed to 20 for ours. But again, nothing's going more than 2 levels. Or 2, depending on how all that shakes out. Offices, and that can be pretty much anything. All local, no outside corporations, companies, anything. And then the community, cultural arts. Water supply. So, as you're probably aware, we've been building buildings in Taos all over the world for decades that capture all of the water. The way to pull that off, and we did this with my father did with the environment here, is we get, right around 9 inches of rain a year, but the toilets don't flush with fresh potable water, gray water. I don't know how long I've been doing this lecture so far, this presentation, call it 10 minutes. There have been kids who have died from lack of potable water. That's just bonkers. So when you take out that potable water into the toilets, which represents a third, sometimes it represents a half of all water used. We flush the toilet with treated gray water that's really clean. The average New Mexican, according to the state, gallons of fresh water a day. Utah is 169. New York is 191. Like, that does not seem real. The gallon jugs, 180 of those you're using every day. And there's people in this world who, like I said, die of lack of it, and we've been there. It's insane. It's totally insane. That's kind of what I'm saying about being in the Western world. You're insulated from that, from seeing that, and realizing that. So, in a typical building that we do, that's right around 25 gallons, give or take. Everything goes differently a day. So that's how we were able to get with the building decades ago, and the environment department decades ago, is we need to supply about 3 times less water, so that 9 inches a year turns into tons. We're good. And then we have cisterns at every building, which the fire department. So the idea is we're going to catch everything. I can't control how much water comes out of the sky each year. It's turning crazy dry. I can't control how much water each person in this community is going to use. I can try and keep some boundaries. And so that's why we're looking at doing no more than 3 wells. We're looking at doing one on the Pueblo side of the highway, run a line under, that'll be a backup. To some, I'm guessing that's going to be maybe 20% of use, somewhere there, either to pay Pueblo. And to be perfectly blunt, that is off the property. The government switches every year. That's not something I can control. So being responsible to the people in the community, that's why I'm looking at doing 1, maybe 2 more, capping it, not using it, if that ever goes away. That's the idea there. So the idea is pretty simple. Cutters, store in the cisterns, which are because it doesn't have to work so hard, and I don't need to get into those specific details today. Happy to answer those questions later. But it gravity feeds the water module into a pressure tank. It filters. The blue thing on the right is the potable water filter. Gives me code required pressure in the house, just like normal. But it's rainwater. It's better for your skin, better for your hair, better for the planet. Wastewater management. This is the issues. Long story short, we treat all the water within itself, which is just like the Florida Everglades or something. It's not something that is invented. It is just captured. It's amazing. You follow the rhythms of nature, you're going to be not just good, you're going to be regenerating. You're going to come out way ahead. So basically, all these plants clean it. You run it through a carbon filter. We flush the toilet with it. To the human eye and human nose, you can't tell the difference between potable water. But it's water that we did the dishes in or took a shower in. And, you know, some of us can sleep better at night knowing that it's not potable water. And then the toilet and the dishwasher flushes to an outside, right? It's one of the airships at the Great World. And so just the toilet and the dishwasher goes there. The dishwasher, because it tends to have soaps or chunks or whatever, and then that goes into what's called an outside botanical cell or black water plant. We've been doing the septic tank, black water planter, and then the leach field. We do the leach field just so we can get a permit. There's no water that leaves the black water planter that goes into the leach field. That's what the state requires. A couple of places, like the job we did 7 years ago in Florida, water table was too high, so I had to get a special use permit, a couple of meetings with the state, no leach field. The goal here, partly because we have, like these portables, a lot of toilets on 2 acres. That's a lot of flow. Less flow in our buildings. Right around 250, I think it is. It's a slide coming up. So we're doing 3 black water planters. The idea is that at the end of the 3rd one, we have the equivalent of treated gray water put onto the land. Right? So I'm not leaching any weird stuff into the ground. I'm trying to protect the aquifers. Trying to avoid leach fields, which are also not in. So that's the idea with the wastewater. Gray water planters, black water planters, it's like they go crazy. Out there in the mesa, it's giant. And then the people in these buildings grow, and that's good for our spirituality and everything. And owls come, bees come, birds. It's just a magical thing. So imagine 3 of those plants. Imagine a big place in the middle. So here we have, and I know we'll fade it, but so we have the septic tanks. We have the 1st black water planter, the 2nd black water planter, and the 3rd one, and then out to the microphones. So every circle has that. And that's the idea, so that I can avoid leach fields, avoid using that. So yeah, so there's the numbers. In the example of 20 units on affordable housing, we're looking at, again, these are guesses at this point. Everyone lives there. Right around 380 gallons a day going into these 3 planters. It's all treated, and these are giant. These are, the first cell is 5,000 square feet. And the goal is to get treated, clean, gray water that's safe to put onto the land, to the microfarm. And then we're getting into permaculture principles and water on the land and all that. Like I said, massive plant production. Very little maintenance. You can get into it and go crazy with it, but this is essentially not much maintenance. It just goes. And then you get food happening, right? You bring in biochar, you do worm farms. It's amazing. It's really amazing the amount of food that comes out of this. You can grow everything. Like I said, papayas harvested everywhere. So that's a really exciting thing. All the food we're going to produce here, right up my goal is right around 30%. We want to bring over to the Pueblo, to bring food there as well as just in county in general. And I say the Pueblo because my experience in the last year building this wall of heating, seeing lines of cars line up, talking to people, it's like, you know, over a year ago, I didn't realize there was food scarcity, food poverty thing going on. Message, so, you know, I'm trying to produce as much food as I can for everybody through this whole project. So primary concerns, which like I said, is about left. I've been learning about this. Like I said, I came to the whole trend party very late. So proximity and development to the Pueblo, to open space, disruptions to cultural heritage and leadership from these. Consultations with Taos Pueblo for guidance on all must happen regularly. Concerns, solutions. The idea is cultural arts and community center. Art, storytelling, heritage preservation, connecting the elders with the youngins. There's wisdom in everything that gets shared there. Maybe there's a better word, but a mellow view shed from the east. Right? That's what that strip is on the bottom. We draw everything at it. Hold up what it looks like from the east. The only two buildings that are 2 levels, that one and that one. The multi-use thing and the second hotel, I'm assuming it's going to be 2 levels, because I'm assuming that's going to want more units. But like I said, with our ships, I can always sink them down more. I think these are in about 2 feet. The land also kind of gently slopes the highways after working with keeping a mellow view shed. Revenue sharing to support affordable housing. Last year when I met with the tribal government, like the governor and the war chief, they leaned forward toward being like, our people are freezing. Can't afford these buildings. Apparently, I might not, again, I might not use a lot of the right word descriptors, but there was a lot of money put into what I call our deluxe houses. Freezing. More chief told me they opened up some of the walls, there was installations. Just like, you know, it's frustrating. So needless to say, you know, that was one of the messages I got affordable housing. So I'm trying to be as creative as possible with all of this. Basically to take a piece of all the money off the top of everything, especially affordable, put it into a nonprofit, not get a penny for us, so it goes directly to affordable housing. To try and tap that plus number of homeless people are there. Straight to the buildings, not during the garage, not during any organization or administrators or any of that. Straight to materials and labor. We're doing all the designs and all that, as well as hopefully other design professionals here in Taos. And food sharing, again, what I've learned is there's food scarcity and poverty on the Pueblo and everywhere. So we want to produce as much food as possible, use restaurants and all that, but also goes to the top. There's that church in El Prado next to North Spot, that kind of thing. And then the rat hunt that I learned about. So that same slide, the layout of the country, I'll be more familiar when we look at it, but our chief last year told me about it, but the governor really hit me hard about it. Like, what about the rabbit hunt? That happens on this property and everything else. So he asked, he said, I want a corridor. Absolutely. And that's why I told him, like, this is your land, you know? But here we are today. We're doing our best. Like I said, if I was technically wealthy, I'd buy this land. So there are some concerns and solutions. And I started out with what I've learned is coming from below. And then, of course, this is obviously, this is also part from the perspective of local, you know, everyone in Taos County. The scale and density, totally off the charts of other communities. Right? It's always, let's pack it in, so problem. That's not what this is about. Money is a good tool, like a hammer, but not the driving force at all. Or maybe a piece of it. The traffic and infrastructure strength, well, that's the result of less density. Water resource management, you know, aquifers, not using too much, recycling, wastewater management. So that's what I learned are the primary concerns. And again, the solutions, about 111 buildings total, about a third of the previous plan for catching water, making a well backup, for containing all the wastewater treatment, these botanical planters, a ton of food. And then, you know, this isn't something I was going to say on paper, but it's, we've been doing this for decades all over the world. You know, I don't want this to come off as being ego, but we kind of know what we're doing. But I'm also aware there is so much more that I don't know what to do. Just bringing together everyone I can, you know, specifically, like I'm saying, Taos has got amazing skilled people. So our goal here is to work with design professionals, builders here in Taos, not just to spread the love, but to work together. You know, we're not the only architecture firm here, we're not the only contractors or builders. We want to bring everyone in, you know. I want to have all the solar for the affordables donated by solar companies here. Flat out donated, no charge. And so, no, we're not going to bring in any outside contractors or anything like that. We want to hire everyone here. Probably a little bit outside of the county because we live in Southwest New York. There's amazing labor in Espanola and San Jose. And we have an idea of a consistent design of the whole thing, which I've been getting requests on, but at the same time, clients get to have a say in that too, right? So the idea here is to have this be inclusive with not just the people who are coming in, but designers and builders. But like I said earlier, I'm maintaining absolute control. So I have to make sure this happens right. We're defining what that means. But the requirements are sustainable, low impact, independent, and regenerative. So of course we have to have some examples of buildings. 90% of our clients do not want a version thing. And of course who I am and my last name and all the work we've done, is always attached to me. So I get it, it's all good. But 20, 25 years ago, figured I mean, my father's company, all the people and crews and everything. You know, decades ago, a guy named Joe Hoare, who since passed away, he's the guy that started the rainwater and wastewater recycling from what he learned in home modeling. So this has always been a big team effort. So 20, 25 years ago, we figured out how to make the environment. And so the idea here is that these buildings, as an example of what a conventional thing can look like, is you can have kids if you have a conventional normal thing. It still is off grid. Is there a question from the live stream?
Oh, no.
No.
Time.
Yeah, sorry. So just some examples of workforce. And so this is the second to the last. Now, the layout, right? So you know what you're looking at, the turquoise and the red. All the green is where we're doing some farming. So I'll leave that there. Sorry, I have way too much time. Questions, comments, feedback, and thank you for listening. Yes.
Looking back, my mother lives in development in Georgia, has all these covenants for wildlife reserve areas, construction materials, and housing appearances. All the protections were in place for 50 years. She's been there 52 years now, so they expired. And the development you're the management company, you do them, and they brought in now bulldozers and everything. How do we make sure that doesn't happen here?
Articles, bylaws, and the HOA left everything down forever. And as far as I know, our attorneys will spend that, so that scenario never happens. Yes. Yeah, you.
Yeah, I just want a statement from the reason the event info on Arroyo is because tribal government has not been consulted about this project, and tribal government council has not been consulted. Nothing in the proposal is okay with tribal government. I want to go on to read a comment from a tribal member on that. This is by Pangea Design Buildings. Agreements between Taos and supplemental energy water from Taos is false. Request for the rabbit hunt corridor or proposed by this year's government. Needs to stop using my people as a marketing point to sell people on the idea that this proposed community is the house. Furthermore, a 350 square feet is comparable to the size of a larger hotel room. The PVB's real target, I believe, is marketing to those who can afford to live, rent, buy the additional market value units. And what does acquire the ranch really mean? Did PVB buy it, or does the Charlotte family still hold some sway over how the ranch property is utilized? Don't be fooled by false claims, and shame on Taos News for publishing false claims without first confirming the accuracy of statements made to them. Oh, and Tiwa is the language we speak, not the name of our tribe. We are the Red Willow people, and do not need to be sold on the idea of a better way of life. You want to be eco-friendly? Leave the land and water the way it is. You want to be an ally to Taos Pueblo and its people? Let us dictate our own narrative. Still want to build an eco-village? Do it away from tribal dams. Do you have any response?
Yeah, absolutely. I hear that. I'll try and touch on them, but remind me if I skip on a couple. Yeah, there is no official agreement. There is no official partnership. Things are as this and goals based on conversations from last year, and I switches. The red hunt corridor was a request, not request, but like we want this, and so, like I said, of course, definitely. It is not official, and that's what was brought up. I want to be specific about it's a conversation and not something, an official written agreement or whatever on that. As well as in general with the public, there is no official permanent agreement.
Kind of framed that way though, like when you look at the project design and everything, I thought that that's what it meant when I read it, and I think it's strategically positioned that way.
Yeah, well, maybe it's not strategically positioned. Well, I mean,
Like obviously.
well, I'm just speaking from my intention. That is not a strategic thing, like is being kind of maybe assumed. It is a goal and an idea from learning about things over the last whatever 8 or 9 months and putting everything I've learned about needs and into this.
You
And
should check your paper a little bit then.
yeah, definitely. And I recognize fully that was a mistake in terms of the language and how that can be perceived. Definitely. And meeting with some families doesn't get the word out. Meeting with just the government from last year doesn't get the word out. So part of it is, let's just get the word out. It's with families, but that's one of the goals with this, is to understand based on the ideas where we might have gone wrong, where things can be fixed, where some of these ideas can be adjusted, right? Because things are moving, but I can't move without the proper input and guidance and advice from specifically the Pueblo first. One of the reasons why we wanted to do that meeting at the Heritage Center first with the Pueblo and not anywhere else is because the Pueblo. That's first and foremost, to have that meeting for tribal members only. And I got feedback, oh, well, that's not good, you're being secretive or whatever. That's not the intention. So yeah, our team reached out, just like all these other venues. And again, I miss anyone. But just like all the other venues, as the first one, had no clue, had no idea that we had to meet with the government first in order to do the venue. Obviously, since we learned that, we're gonna hopefully do that, and won't have no plans to go to the Heritage Center at all now. To follow up on the meeting that we had in December with the tribal government, and we talked about there's some government coming in, hopefully there'll be some continuity or momentum, or the governor then sitting in on some meetings was talked about. And so January came around, and again, like I said, there's a lot of stuff here I don't know and I'm ignorant of, so I forget, like Red Willow people, I didn't know that,
Yeah, Taos.
What?
Taos is Red Willow.
Yeah, well, that I knew what it meant, but in terms of like referring to the people, I didn't know, and so that's a mistake, right? And so I've learned, and moving forward, I hopefully will learn.
Yeah, maybe
do
learn
that
a
right.
little bit more about the Arroyo settlements because someone who's from here and so
Yeah,
influential, you should really know about these things that affect all of us.
yeah, absolutely.
I think, yeah, the other question she had was about the land. Did you buy the land or?
Yeah, we are purchasing the land. That's the idea. But
It was a tribal member, and the first quote was the government.
and then so getting back to that point of continuing getting the advice, guidance, and counsel from the tribal government it's kind of a restart, So I reached out, met with the with the new tribal secretary, I think it was last week. Gave them all the posters and all the site map and asked them for a meeting like we did before. But I learned that I think January and February there's religious stuff going on, so I won't expect any kind of reply until March. Then it's a meeting, and even that one meeting I had in December with the tribal government was like, okay, this is interesting. They threw out some ideas like the corridor thing. And then it's like, all right, well, let's see what happens. Let's meet again and talk more. So I'm assuming that's going to happen, maybe starting in March again. But and I've been meeting with some tribal families also because I'm sensitive to the fact that any government doesn't always share everything with all the people. I have tried not to step on anyone's toes, but I didn't feel comfortable with not meeting with the people as opposed to the government. So that was the intention there. But all that being said, we have a plan and an idea and all this stuff, but I'm not comfortable with moving too far ahead forward without, getting into the meetings and getting advice and guidance from the tribal government. I'm trying to hold things as best I can, right? So yeah, and the content of our website will be updated to be clear and to reference Red Willow people accurately. And then, it's just like, just to touch on one more thing on this topic, is clearly there are things that I and others don't know that we're ignorant of. That's kind of our idea and goal with the cultural center. But I don't want to presume that it needs to happen or demanding. That's not up to me. I would guess that that's probably up to that culture to say, do we even want to have that? but it's an idea, and so I kind of felt like meeting with the families and the tribal government, it was not shared, so.
So you won't go through the project unless the federal government is on board with it?
I will try and hold things back as best I can.
Or you're in control of it?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I'm gonna stop until like do nothing. Yeah, I'll do my best. Yeah. Yeah. Oops. Yes.
You talked about affordable housing being rentals, maybe I missed it, but is there gonna be any for sale in the market or affordable on the property?
Yeah, so, like I said, we want to start out at that price point of 500. If there are some who come in that want that unit, which some are, who can be like, I can do something more, or I might want 400 square feet or 450, yes. And then if someone wants to start out with purchasing, that's fine too. The idea is just keep it easy, mellow, get in for 500, first and last. And then if they want to graduate and buy that unit anytime, or if they want to graduate into a workforce a little bit bigger. So, like I said, we have ideas, but as clients and people show interest, and I understand their perspective, we're adjusting to that also.
One thing,
Yeah.
real quick to add to that, and the comment that is done with me, in terms of long-term affordability, one thing that I think is a great tool that I've been involved with in another place is community land trusts, where the land is owned by a nonprofit organization that is essentially leased out to individuals, so the deed can have affordability built into it for, say, 99 years instead of 30 or 50 or whatever. So something I think definitely worth looking into is being done around the country successfully.
Yeah, and that's the common line we're walking down between all the circles and the pink part, which is already ag. And then I think your question was, we have ideas, the articles, bylaws, and HOAs are being strict, but that's where the real estate attorney can make sure that everything's locked down to the points, to your point too. Yes.
I have a couple of questions about the water systems. Being a larger community, well, I guess like looking at the airships, all the gray water and black water, that people living there are generally highly educated on using soaps and cleaners, et cetera, that don't affect your gray water system. So it's one question I have is your system resilient enough to take in if someone accidentally poured bleach down their toilet to clean it? Is there going to be a wastewater treatment operator or someone to help manage all of those circles of housing? And then furthermore, if you end up using one or two wells, do you know if you're going to need to do diesel domestic, or who's going to be doing the maintenance on these systems?
Yeah. A lot of that is in the HOA, or will be. I just have a first draft. And so yeah, don't put bleach down. But in reality, when people do that, like I said, we have the nightly rentals, it's not that big of a deal on the system that people think it is. Putting a thing of bleach or the wrong soap or something that we've seen it all on these nightly rentals. It's amazing what people do. Like a rental car. And 1, 2, 3 things here and there, not going to make much of a difference. Doing it regularly, yeah, it'll kill the system, and then we just got to restart it. But a lot of that is baked into the HOA, or will be. And then what we're also wanting to do is that level of raising awareness and education within the community. So we're hoping to have workshops for clients and people aware of these things. In terms of maintenance, there's some ideas about having a maintenance committee type thing, or a systems committee, almost like exists out of the Great World community. There's a little systems team that goes around. So something along those lines, because part of it is the people who are living in these buildings, if they don't want to deal with anything eco or green, they shouldn't have to. They might have their life and work 16 hours a day and don't want to think about it, But then some people want to dive right in. So it's of our opinion that we need to support both and create some type of a structure, or committees or programs or workshops to support all of that. But specifically, I am planning on having some type of a maintenance group committee thing, at the very least, with check on everyone, like, hey, how you doing, you know? We are gonna be offering kind of home packages, everything from room service to maintaining people's greenhouses for them, so all they gotta do is pick the food, you know, and other things. Yes?
I have a lot of questions, but, first of all, I just want to say that I'm super supportive of off-grid sustainable architecture. I actually moved to Taos in 2013 to learn to build retrofits. We currently build my own home off-grid, so, I'm very enthusiastic and supportive of that, but I can also understand the sensitivity coming from the Pueblo, this being such a large-scale operation. And that was one of my main questions, is if you would proceed with it, if there was a great amount of pushback, which seems to me that you will, which I can understand how.
Yes.
I can understand how that would feel like a partnership on their part. And then also in terms of the well usage and keeping water to the Pueblo, there's just, I have more questions, but one question is, would that require their approval?
Yes.
And, okay, and then without that, if you couldn't use the well, where would that supplemental water come from? And then, also, it's just my assumption that I would assume that their water is more valuable to them than money, so I would guess that you might get a test on that.
Right, yeah, absolutely, and it's an idea. The other one that was floated that I don't want to do is a line on the west side of the highway, which would, I guess, be county water from the whole Abeta thing, which I don't. Yeah, El Prado, which is their water anyway, but they couldn't be paid for directly. As far as I understand it, it would go someplace else.
So it's sort of being set in trap, though, put it that way.
Right, I mean, you know, if you say it, worst case scenario would be a well on the property, you know? But even then, my hope is that that would be metered to pay the well. Because like I said, everything here is theirs anyway. So, yeah, the water thing is super, super sensitive, which is why I feel like I can catch it all. But the two unknowns is, I can't control exactly how much water everyone uses, and things coming from the sky. Yeah, we have some goals there. And then the other thing with this is that, like Chris said at the beginning, this is my hometown. I was born here. I care very deeply for everyone, everything, the land, all of it. This is an effort. It is not set in stone. But the other thing is that I feel like if we don't do this, there'll be a Home Depot there. There'll be a
Give the
Burger
land
King.
back to the Pueblo.
I would love to. I would love
Yeah.
to. I'm not in control of that. I don't have that kind of money. That's, like I said at the beginning, my first choice. So those are just kind of my feelings around, and I'll get back to you.
Oh, please.
I imagine that land itself is fairly expensive. And I'm sure that you'll have infrastructure costs to get the project started. So where is the money coming from? Who are your investors?
Our investors started with a client that we're doing a project in Oklahoma for. And through talking with him and understanding what we're about, the history and everything, he's like, oh, I'm interested. And so he is in data around health. He's got this health app on Android that does whatever the health app does. So he's in raising money for that, and this investor group has done some projects, some hospitals. One was in India, one was in, I think, the Bahamas. And so we just got to talking about all this, about the community out there. And at some point I was asked, well, what would you do to kind of raise awareness, and like what would be an ultimate ideal thing? And I'm like, another community somewhere, you know? We can do all these individual buildings for clients all over the world, and we got feedback from clients about like, well, we can get into your buildings, we like that, but we can't afford land, right? That's why we did the Greater World and the Star Community Past Trace Area House, which is kind of not much of a community. And then the 55-acre community up above Valdez, crazy extreme. But we set up the Greater World originally like a golf club, and ironically, like similar to a pueblo, where you get a piece of paper and then that gets you a piece of land in this case. So $1 a square foot, $1,000, you get 1,000 square feet, you start, right? Before subdivision law existed, it worked, it was doing great. So I mean, I can go on and on about the community, but to get to your specific point is, so then we started talking about a computer. And so, so we were looking at 29 acres right by the airport. There's 80 next to the Greater World, right? And so, you know, I was like, all right, well, we're going to do something there. And then I found out about Trev and the whole previous project. And it was just like, it was way big, way expensive. But, you know, I reported to this client in Oklahoma as we were talking about, you might be able to bring some investors to do something like this, because it's way out of my ability. And so we just got to talking, and why this as opposed to others, you know? My first reason, you know, like I said, living here is I don't want the worst case scenario there, you know? And then, you know, they were asking me, well, what would you do? And I was like, all right, I put a little sketch together and all circles and things and affordables and all the off-grid stuff. And they liked it. So we got to talk, and they talked, and then reached out to the family and had an idea of a deal, like some rough things. And I was like, you guys are really sure you do this? You know, it's, like you said, it's a lot of money. Not to mention once we have the property and then we're building. So part of it is we're going to do stuff, but lots of clients are going in and doing things. Like each circle is being sold. Like I said, everything in between is being locked in. And so yeah, it was just one step and another step and another step, and it got real. And I was like, oh shit, this can actually happen, right? So I was like, wow. So there's, you know, a bit of a freak out and stuff like that. But I was like, go for the dream, you know? And so, you know, I sent them an article about the last project, fight and everything, and, which, you know, I thought was just totally bonkers, density, everything about it, just my opinion. And so then a concern came up, well, what if we kind of did the same kind of pushback and fight and everything? Obviously, that would be concerning to the investors. And then I also heard in town, like, are you guys doing this? You know, should or are you? Or, you know, because we've got comments like, hey, you should do another community here, you know. And then, you know, there's traffic density in town, and the issues there and all that. Like right in town. So I know that gossip leads to stuff and all these assumptions. I try to get out ahead of it, which is why I started just to get an idea, like, what if we did something like this? And I just got, wow, that'd be cool. You know, a lot of comments, but that was basically it. But also, like, the density thing, you know, keep the density down. And then the whole idea of just like, what we go in here and we didn't go for it, right? That is the biggest thing for me personally that freaked me out, you know. Because there's a lot of other groups out there, there's a lot more swoop and just you know, do what they would do here. And to me personally, no, that's not acceptable. You know, like I said, if I could, I would, you know, buy this and dig it back or whatever. But what we are looking at, and I know this might sound small and trivial, but this spot here, where we're looking at doing a small little amphitheater, there's a and the cultural embassy and the health spa thing, we're looking at deeding that over to the public. Kind of like, you know, I mean, it sounds like it's a pathetic gesture, but effort, you know, that's kind of the bottom line with all this. Kind of so that there would be access on the cultural center, because that's where the money goes. Anyway. So, yeah, there's a group of investors who have been all about green real estate and health. That's, I guess, the hotness with the investor world or something, or at least a lot of them out there. So, of course, they're learning about this, you know, real estate development. I like to say we're doing it right, or at best and all these things that we described. So it's kind of right up their alley. They're asking me to get this going, and you know, do 100 acres of Florida or micro communities. And I'm just like, chill out. Let's get this figured out, and then do those things. And we're having a March 8th meeting at CCA, which at least some of them are planning to be there. So they'll be here and can ask questions through it. Yes.
This is me that's confused, but, that each circle would be 12 feet. And that would mean that there would be like a more towards the rental unit, or something on that.
On the affordables,
Yeah.
that's us.
That's like an HOA, or.
Though I'm also understanding it might be good to go regulations with the county zoning. But to your question was you know, our goal is home ownership. That makes sense. Build things, but we've got to start with the renting. We're not allowing any short-term rentals. But each circle, yeah, the client buys it, they own it, and are part of that HOA.
But I mean, if you're expecting to belong to, piece that direction.
Like the affordable circle?
Yeah.
We do. Our Pangea Community.
And there would be like HOAs for government and.
HOA for the community, and then something similar, which I'm understanding in the county is more like a condo thing, for that to replace for those 21. Right, which is probably very similar to the HOA thing.
And then the last thing was, who are you expected to farm, or, you know, if you're living there? How do you-
Well, yeah, so that kind of touches on the thing, right, the fee or whatever. Sweat equity is the most sustainable thing. So the goal is, and it's not required, but the goal is to have everybody grow some food while they're on farm. That helps with revenue, so that I can hopefully keep the HOA enough. But some people don't want to do that. They might do the maybe there's something else. Yes.
Yeah, that was my question. Aside from other controversial issues, like, this sounds kind of dreamy, you know, it almost sounds kind of like an intentional community, where everybody has a similar mindset. We can't really control who's moving into these places, and so, in order to have like a sustainable to perhaps give back to Pueblo or to the community has to be involved, and how do you make everybody share that mindset? And,
Right, I mean, you can't force anyone to do anything, you know, I learned that. But there will be background checks on everyone. And we don't have to sell a lot or every single person who's in, you know? So there are conversations there about what we hope for. This is what the HOA is all about, being very strict. This is our goal, like we do things. So we expect people to participate at some level, But, you know, if I'm talking to someone who wants it, it's like, nah, I'm not doing any of that, you know, but they'll pay their HOA fee. That sounds like that person might be, because like, who am I to judge on that person who just wants to live in an off-grid thing, but not really participate in it, you know?
What about the rentals? Because in the proposal, that the majority of houses for, like $500 a month rentals, people who are renting, how can we assure that they're gonna contribute to this? What sounds like it should be a community in order to do property.
Well, it's the same answer, that's the goal to have. But I can't force people to, you know, work the gardens. But there are kind of HOA things that we're drafting that will, you know, maintain the gray water plant, that kind of thing. But again, some people like an overgrown gray water plant, you know, and that's on them and inside their unit. So it's kind of a gray area about what we require, what we demand, what we expect. I don't really feel like anyone can really judge and force people to do any of those things, you know? And so both ends of the spectrum, someone just goes to their house, they're working whatever job, that's all they do, but they're in a home that's off-grid, whereas the other end of the spectrum, they're cognizant, right?
Have you, about that though, have you done any like pay scaling? Say no one wants to participate, just extreme measure, no one wants to participate, the HOA fee or due or whatever, would have to go up to pay for people to maintain things and grow food. Would that push it out of the realm of affordable?
No, we're sticking to 500 a month, no question.
Plus HOA fee, how much would that HOA fee be if no one participated in the good things that you're describing?
Yeah, I mean, that's, I guess that's a possibility. You know, obviously I wouldn't expect no one to not participate, but that's something to look at.
HOA stands for homeowners, so would renters be paying HOA fee or only the owners?
Well, right, that's a good point. All tenants need to adhere to whether they're owning or renting, right? So we're not doing short-term rentals, but the idea of renting monthly, right? That renter would still have to participate or adhere to the HOA, right? So, but that's something we need to basically run the numbers on, and what does that look like? But, you know, again, I'm not budging on the affordables. So if that scenario happens when there's like a large group or a lot of people who are just don't want to participate, we
Or
gotta make that
they're
up.
working too long. I mean, if the need for housing are probably working really hard, they may not have their energy or time.
Right, right. So that's what we're learning as we're talking to clients. Yes.
I think one thought is like, you know, that worst case scenario, nobody's going to contribute to farming or those initiatives. But then the people aren't paying those HOAs, that could create, you know, 2 or 3 paid positions within the community, that those are the farm managers, or people that really do, you know, manage agricultural components. So it's like, okay, there's a solution in this question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a solution there.
I think it's also going to attract a certain type of person who wants to live in this type of community as well. If you don't like that kind of community, you go somewhere else.
Right, and as we're talking to clients, and there's a long list of them right now, if I'm getting a sense like they just don't want to participate in anything, then maybe this isn't the place for them. You know? Yes.
Yeah, I would agree with, so I'm glad you mentioned that there is housing, as someone who's lived in Mexico for 30 years, I know I was actually pre-pandemic, you know, this sort of.
Yeah.
I don't own, I work hard, I don't need a $500 unit, but I would like a sustainable solution that values space. Yes, I have gardens. So first of all, let's look at alternatives. This could be a pilot and a model for a lot of other projects if it can be successful. You're dipping into new territory, creating a community versus individual dwellings. So you're marrying two and it brings together a lot how does that get tweaked? Because, yeah, I have concerns because I do work. If somebody's getting a 500 unit who hardly works, do they know how to steward the property and take care of things? We've got to take care of each other in that kind of setting. So anyway, I'm very excited, very interested. I understand that we need this because us everyday working people cannot afford. I ended up losing my conceit that I went through so much stress on these folks to stay afloat. And yeah,
Yeah, we want to help alleviate that. Yeah, yes.
Touching on the homelessness, what are you gonna do to help the homeless house, couple of people?
Right, so, to be brief and summarize it, I'm taking a piece of all the revenue off the top of everything. The commercial businesses, all of it, except the affordables, into a nonprofit to build affordable housing on the way. Direct. Same thing with the food, you know, in amount, because that's what I've learned, is that housing and food are, I mean, I had an idea of it already, but I was specifically told, like, we're hurting, you know? So that's the idea there, as well as outside of this community, grants and funding sources through the nonprofit, as fast as possible. Yes.
I want to commend you on a lot of thoughtfulness and addressing needs that are very present here, and also your humility in stating that you're learning as you go. Picking up on the land trust question and the intentional community question, I'd like to challenge you to think about how you could design in solidarity economics here, so that this is a way that, yes, there may need to be investors, there is the need for investors, but so many of the values you've expressed are in line with solidarity economics, which means that community members own or steward, you know, depending on all the values, can you own land, can you own water, needing to meet up with realities that we live in, right? So if, say, 30% of this project were set aside as community-owned housing and land, it would be, I think, so much more in line with the values you're talking about, and so much more of value to the world at large as we seek to transform away from the capitalist systems.
Right, exactly. I mean,
So, yeah, it'd be great if that could be part of your design from this early moment. I think it would bring a stronger community. I think it would also be of interest to people all around the world who are struggling to transform away from capitalist ways of doing it. And you really have an amazing opportunity to do so here.
yeah, I mean, that's the thing there. But about community ownership, you know, all the land, specifically the green part, but all the land between all the circles is being locked down into a nonprofit so that it can never be developed. If there's something there where, you know, the community can own it, or really what owning it would mean the community can benefit from it, right? From that land, whether it's value or, you know, of course, just being on it and trails and that kind of thing, growing food. But yeah, there's something there with the land. Yeah.
And one last point, the reason I'm so impassioned about this is that it's also a way to bridge between indigenous value systems and non-indigenous colonial.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. I mean,
And so, yes, there's just that opportunity, and I wanted to name it, and also challenge you to really look into solidarity economies and how that could be built in here.
yeah, exactly. I wrote down that and notes and everything, but like that point of you know, raising awareness of indigenous culture, or, you know, cultural embassy, or any of it. That's why I said maybe, It's like, I don't want to be presumptuous, maybe I was a little too much with the text on our website and things, of, maybe they're just, that's not desired or allowed or needed or whatever, From my perspective, I'm like, I want to help and all that. But I do agree there's something there to have a platform or something to help, which is raising awareness and examples and housing and all the things. So we'll see where it goes, and hopefully this isn't the only community, here. Yes.
Yeah, well, you should look at California. Marin County has a number of these housing trusts that you mentioned. Bolinas, Point Reyes Station, Southern Sonoma. And it's actually, some of it's put into California law statewide where housing trusts have special exemptions for density and everything.
Yeah.
So you should look at that. And also, indigenous tribes in California have done partnerships with nonprofits to regain their lands, return land to native peoples. So that's very important. Now I have another question. The Airship Committee of Community Building Techniques are addicted to Portland cement. Is there any possibility that you can get away from Portland cement in your building techniques? You're talking about these computer designed buildings that are, funneled out. There are successful similar systems in Europe that are using no Portland cement, just earth, and they're very successful. There's no reason half the buildings in the world are made of earth without Portland. And I really hope you get away from Portland cement. Talk to Levi Romero in the architecture department at UNM. Talk to Quentin Wilson, who ran the Adobe program at El Rito. There is no reason that we can't use natural earth building in this project.
Yes.
I hope that you will pursue that.
Well, Adobe's.
Adobe,
That's the originator, right?
I mean,
So,
in a student came from the ball, studied with Quentin Wilson, went back to the ball. He built 20 community buildings, all around earth, no concrete. They survived the earthquake in Nepal without damage.
yes.
It's very doable.
Yes, regarding earthships, the main structure is round earth and tires. Round earth, tires are definitely still weird and all that. And this might be a little contradictory to your question. Earthships actually use less concrete than conventional buildings, but that's for another conversation, maybe in the radio. But what we are looking at doing is bringing in, and we're in the process of acquiring one, a 3D printer.
Yeah.
That prints buildings with concrete.
But you can do that with earth. There are 3D
Eventually.
printers that print it with.
Yeah, eventually.
So
So,
it's existing in Europe
Stabilized
now.
earth,
right, what?
stabilized earth, mostly earth with a little bit of cement.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, we have to meet the codes and regulations. So what we're looking at with the 3D printer, as well as biodiesel, a local sawmill that runs on biodiesel, I can power everything with biodiesel. We had a biodiesel company here about 18 years ago. A lot of soap came off the system, and that's where a good amount of the money is. And it's good for the machines. But the 3D printer allows me to do 1,000 square feet a week. And it gives me a conventional wall, concrete and steel. And all the conduit and everything, we just kind of temporarily hold it up as the nozzle comes through and then it's in. And speed is time is money. That allows me to lower my cost per square foot. So when I put these things together, our excavation, our heavy equipment, our excavation machines, running on biodiesel, doing biodiesel, sawmill with local timber here. So embodied energy, I don't have to order from Canada or something from Home Depot. The wood is awful anyway, it's all work these days. That allows us to pretty much shave about $100 a square foot off of what it takes to do an off-grid sustainable thing, which has been like 10% more. Concrete in the 3D printers, and I should have said this earlier, I gotta remember that, it's temporary. And the company that we're working with is Cobot out of Denmark. They have a new machine, cheaper than the ones I was looking at, it's still crazy expensive. It's like a printer on your desktop. It prints, make sure it's not clogged. But the Philip over there in Denmark that I talked to has got opinions about Americans. He's fully aware of geopolymers and printing with Earth in the same machine.
Yeah.
But we have to iterate. And I'm not an expert at Jake, I'm your crew, knows a lot more than I do, sorry to call you out. But the idea there, again, we have an amazing team, brilliant. And so the idea is that we have to iterate, what I'm looking at, 500 doors, from what I'm understanding, I'm not an expert. Then we can start using site dirt with geopolymers, and we're printing on Earth, and we get away from concrete, because concrete is horrible, right? So that's kind of the idea there. And I fully recognize that concrete is terrible, but there's not much to replace it. I mean, you know, adobes and rammed earth and tires and all that. So that's kind of the idea around that. And the big deal with the 3D printer, there's a lot of big deals, is that it's fast, which I gotta drive down the cost per square foot. Because doing off-grid sustainable things is the same or a little bit more. Yes.
The question on the farmland again.
Yes.
So, as I understand the map, the green areas are where you anticipate doing the farming, which I assumed was going to be like open farmland. Your pictures are all showing greenhouse type facilities. So do you anticipate most of that actually being built up in your buildings and greenhouses, or is it open area?
So the green spots there, that's the open area where I'm planning to grow. I'm not an expert farmer, food grower at all. Seco, who's 6th generation, he's been running his cattle and all that on his property. He's changing there. He knows a lot. There's other people that I've met at some of these previous meetings. So I'm assembling a team of food growing experts who will do that. All the green spots, that's just me relative to the systems and where my gray water is coming off, right? I'm assuming that might get adjusted, you know, when the experts maybe move some things as well as the animal synergy. But I know I need places near the buildings where all this gray water is going, which is a lot. And touching on the regenerative thing, every 100 gallons that we use, we're putting 80, or no, every 100 gallons we use, we're probably only be taking about 20 out of the ground from the potential well backup, right? Everything catch. The greenhouse pictures, that's where the gray water planter lives, inside the home, so it doesn't freeze over at night, and you get to have all your vegetables and flowers inside. Now that being said, some clients don't want any plants inside. You know, I might disagree with that because I love plants and all overgrown bugs and butterflies, but that's no problem. We'll just have the planter outside, right? So that's an idea, but that's where the greenhouse thing is. The green is all just outside farming, no monoculture or anything like that. And then the earthship wallapetes that we're doing, and for those of you who don't know what a wallapete is, it's, as far as I understand, it's an Aboriginal term from Australia that just means sunken greenhouse into the ground. So it takes advantage of the stable, roughly 59-degree temperature of the earth, so you can grow into the winter. We're adding passive solar, cooling tubes, gray water, just to get more plant production, and way more affordable. So we're planning on doing as many of those as possible. I don't know how many. I would love to do a lot, just because I want to grow a lot of food. I want to get massive amounts of food so that nobody is hurting for food here, on the Pueblo, off the Pueblo, anywhere. And the restaurants, you know, it's better for the restaurants and farmers markets, you know, to have local food. It supports the people who are growing it. And then people get into growing, and it's good for your being doing that. Did that answer your question? Yes, in the back.
When do you intend on breaking ground?
Yesterday?
Realistically, are you a year out, 3 years out, 5 years out?
I have probably an unrealistic goal, but a goal of breaking ground in May. I've been meeting with the county because part of the deal was to have path permits, right? We're not going to finalize the first property if we don't have permits. So I've been meeting with the county. That's been identified through summary subdivisions, which is basically, I'm not an expert in zoning, but 5 lots per little summary subdivision. And at the same time, I can submit for a permit in each one, right? So I'm just trying to be strategic so that we can hit the affordables first.
Are you submitting, for 5 acre or as a whole project?
We're doing a summary subdivision at a time, and groups of those at a time. So, depending on how long that takes, you know, getting permits and summary subdivision, if it's May, great, because we've always played the game here of trying to get buildings at least enclosed, if not turnkey moving in by the freeze, right, which is sometimes Halloween, sometimes later. So that's my goal. I'm trying to get that. But like I said, it's realistically, it'll probably get into, you know, June, July, I don't know.
Have you submitted with the state yet?
No, I haven't submitted anything. I've had, I think it was today, I think 2 days ago or so, Friday I had the kind of first official meeting with the county about the summary subdivisions and what that looks like. And we will have to meet again with the state like we did decades ago about the whole water thing, and flush with gray and not potable, to get that allowance like we did at the Grady Road. But, you know, but then, so we have a plan of like our first phase, second phase, third, which is really year 1, 2, 3 and all that. And we're hopeful for that. But at the same time, clients want to come in. And that's also a time frame about, you know, they might want this lot or that lot, or, you know, one of the units in the workforce or something. So that's a different timeline. And some of those might happen, you know, May, June, July, depending on their permits and their money kind of thing, right?
Do you have pricing for the individual units that you're planning to sell? Or not the individual units, but the plots?
Not yet. That's still being finalized. It's in the realm. But now that we have, you know, last Saturday, we were able to kind of announce the deal, even though we had it about 2 months before. So when all that was agreed on, then we were able to like, all right, flush out all the numbers to be final rather than kind of just, I guess, spectrum of numbers, right?
Is it possible to buy the property as raw land, or are you only selling it with your infrastructure on it?
Oh, if someone wanted to buy a lot and not build anything on it?
Or they wanted to build something on it, like, is it specific to your infrastructure being put on the property?
Well, it has to be off-grid, gray water, sustainable and all that. But the look and the aesthetic and the design, I mean, in my opinion, that should be up to the person who's being in it with the sensitivity of a community thing. Because I've gotten comments like, are you gonna do a common design with everything? So that's kind of my answer there.
Are you planning on personally managing the commercial spaces, i.e. like hotel, restaurants, community gardens?
Oh, yeah. Especially those
by
that,
you, or those are managed by your company?
well, we're kind of gonna be the governing principle about it, you know, because like a hotel, it uses a lot. And it's, I guess, of all the risk in this, probably some of the riskiest if I didn't, you know, have a tight control of that. So, yes, the answer is yes. We'll be governing that to make sure that it adheres to all this, right?
You intend on hiring third-party management companies or anything along those lines?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to manage a hotel, a hospitality service, but I'm not gonna hire outside of Taos.
Is that a part of your phase 1 or phase 3?
Phase 1, we hope to do our hotel, right? Which is kind of that mellow Taos casita type thing, as opposed to the second one, which I'm assuming is gonna be a 2-level building with, you know, units and looking like, well, maybe not looking, because these buildings will all be off-grid and sustainable, but closer to what we kind of all pop into our head about when we hear hotel, right? But nothing's finalized. Yes, you have, yeah.
A follow-up question about the affordability is, in order to make sure that the population that needs the housing the most actually are the ones that get the housing there, do you have plans to do, you know, income qualifications or things like that for that affordable housing?
First and last, which is $1,000, you know, because it's 500 a month.
Well, I mean, like checking like how much their income is to make sure that they're
They're
low income as opposed to like anyone that could decide that, hey, $500 rent sounds great to me and I have $100,000 job.
Oh, and I have a what job?
$100,000
Right,
job.
right.
Maybe I just want to live in a small place.
And what constitutes local? Like, somebody might just move to Taos and within a year, you might want to take advantage of a $500 home.
Yeah,
I
that's,
think it's unintended consequences. for many people.
exactly. I didn't even think of that before. That's a very good point, you know. Anyone who wants to get in, there's background checks. So hopefully, I mean, we have to catch that because that's not okay, you know. But that being said, I mean, we're planning on doing 108 affordable units, you know, the 500 a month thing. But, you know, just kind of thinking about it out loud, who am I to say if someone wants that despite their income, right?
Right.
So we gotta be careful there. But that being said, no, I'm going for, you know, the most needy here. And we need to understand each person who wants to get into these and learn about them to hopefully catch that. But also, I'd feel a little funky if I turned someone away who is more well off who wanted that, you know? So out of 108, maybe at the very least, you know, the first 50 or no question, and then maybe something like that. But that's it. Yeah, I think about that. Yes.
For your commercial properties and like the conventional hotel, and even for your private homes, are there gonna be standards on appearances and building materials and night lighting and things like that? Or
Yes, yes.
Like commercial neon signs and things like that?
Oh yeah, no neon signs or anything like that. The dark skies thing, I think, is decent. I think they can go a lot further. All the lights, we want to use spectrum lights where the lights don't travel, you know, like, I don't know, 100 yards away, you don't see them, right? So that kind of thing. And we're not going to do stick frame, we're not doing straw bale, probably not cob either, but pretty much everything else, you know. And then the aesthetic, I mean, kind of, you know, but again, I don't want to get into this judgment thing of, oh, that looks nice and that doesn't, right? Like, who are we to judge of what art looks like, you know, which is really what it is. But at the same time, we got to be sensitive with what does this whole thing look like, you know? I get the hodgepodge thing, I get where, you know, like going down the street and they all look the same, like, I'm personally not a fan of that. So that's something to be specifically figured out, which is why I'm really eager to work with as many design professionals here as possible, right, to get that locked down. Yes.
I had a question about this living there. I can't quite picture a family living in a 350 square foot home.
Yeah, so that's where we're starting, right? Some of the workforce things are about 800 square feet or so. I'm already talking to some people who, like Santa Fe or Espanola or even out of the state, who want to come in, and they're like, I have $720 a month for everything, for their entire budget. So this is perfect. But to your point, I would imagine there would be a family who wants an affordable thing. So maybe we'll combine two affordables for them and have a 600-700 square foot thing. Maybe that's, I don't know, $700 a month. So that's what I mean by we have a plan, we have an idea, nothing is rigid. And from doing this for so many decades in the other community, I know that clients, as they request and inquire, that everyone's going to have their own story about what their needs are and where they're coming from, to your point. And we need to accommodate that, which is why I have this on the affordables. We have a building with a number of units in it, but I don't have it all perfectly designed yet because I'm waiting for this, right? So that we can accommodate that, like you said, a family as opposed to one or two in a 350 square foot thing, right? Because as we all know, there are plenty of families, maybe mostly families as opposed to individuals who are at that most needy level, right? So we need to accommodate that, absolutely. Yes.
Have you worked with or talked to housing authority to understand how you might be able to serve section 8 tenants?
Families. Yes, we've, and that gets into the VA loans also. Typically, the requirements there are, we need to have the whole permit and construction set done before that financing or that money can come in, which we're perfectly happy to do. Like, all the affordables, we're doing all the design things for free, and we hope other design professionals here that we engage with will do the same. Yes, I don't know too much about it, but any funding source, I would imagine, for affordables would absolutely be welcome. Whatever it takes is basically my angle here, or my intention is a better word for the affordables, whatever it takes.
And then what about Lisa O'Brien and, I can't remember the.
THD?
Taos housing part, yeah.
I have an opinion. There's been 1.5 that has gone into that organization, 1.5 million. And not one building has been done yet. How many of these affordables could be done for that? Or anyone here could have been done. I'm not a fan of another layer of bureaucracy or another administrator getting money to do good stuff. We've been having all these county and town commissioner meetings, Vision 2020 for decades. You know, I mean, in the 90s, I remember Bobby Gonzalez, I think, or Peralta was in there then, and we had this same meeting at the Sagebrush back then that was just done, I don't know, a couple months ago. Same problems, same issues, same solutions, nothing. So that's why I'm very specific about control on here, and very specific about money going straight to buildings. Not a government, not an organization, straight to buildings. Again, it's the only way I can guarantee, I think, myself and my team and everybody that I talk to when I say this, that the right thing will happen, or that we can make it forward happen, right? And again, we're still defining what right means. I'm not a fan of those layers of bureaucracy. That's just my opinion. That money could have gone straight to the people, straight to the business. Anybody else? Yes.
I feel like a very there's tension around this, for the community and sensitive topics, relationships with Pueblo and knowing the challenges of the council's change agreement here and all of that. Feels like you have a really genuine intentions of communication with that and very transparent with that. And when I read through
Maybe a little too aggressive.
well, when I read through the information, like it said like potential partnership on the go. It didn't say like official. And people's questions of like, how are you directly supporting affordable housing in Pueblo, and kind of what you said of, I think, ideally you should be giving back to, that's a beautiful idealistic version. Right now it's owned by a family, and the fact that you said it could be Home Depot, or it could be sold off as 1 acre lots with single family homes with each of the wells. Yeah, which is going to be tapping way more water, and so it just feels like you have a very genuine vision and intention for providing these things, and rather than bureaucracy saying X, Y, and Z, having a very legitimate plan to provide affordable housing. So really commend you on that, and with the public relations component of that, just like there's like a very innovative, by the plan to provide that. Like, who else is trying to provide 100 homes of affordability in Taos right now, which is needed, So.
Yeah, I appreciate that. All we can do is an effort, me being who I am in this country, I have it pretty good, a white man. I feel like it's our, white males, our responsibility to do whatever it takes, use everything we can, our platform, our privilege, our money, our company, our everything else, to help him. If we're in a position to help, we have a responsibility to help him. So that's kind of, I guess, at the root of this. And yeah, this is my home. I love it. So I'm going for it. If I fall on my face, I'll fall on my face. But like you said, what could go in there, which almost did, is unacceptable. So hopefully we can do right.
And if it's a Home Depot or single family lots with one house and a well, like none of those visions are like trying to provide a percentage of profits to go to affordable housing, to the flood below. I mean, there's nothing else unless you have a holistic vision that is trying to support that with an individual. It's not going to do anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully this can be an example. And, you know, I don't want to like be all ego and be all end all, but hopefully, you know, fighting off treads before, massive undertaking. And hopefully this can be an example of what Taos will accept and what Taos won't accept. Because Taos is growing, Taos is growing fast, faster than a lot of us realize about what's coming. So, you know, it's kind of like this, but no further. You know,
42% of the houses aren't primary residents in Taos, you know, they're investment, second homes, and that could be, you know, what this ends up being, as much as investors from Texas, you know, with a second home, you know, that's not certain.
right, and no short-term rental.
Yeah.
Yes?
I want to just second or third those comments about, you know, your efforts here and the intention of the project. I did want to comment on a couple of things you said about density, and I think there was a comment in the Taos News about, you know, again, this land exists and it's probably going to get developed by someone, so I understand that the density on the existing lot is maybe not suitable to high density, but I guess I'd be curious about your thoughts on, you know, the feasibility of building these types of units in town where density can be a good thing, where people can walk and bike to places, and I think there's, you know, I see a lot of lots throughout town that are just, you know, they're vacant, and there's, the density is not there, and we see sprawl all around town. That's you know, to your point, if development is continuing and increasing, to what extent should we start focusing on trying to do infill versus continue to sprawl?
Some places we need to keep it as low density. Thank you for the question, it's a good point. Some places we need to keep the impact of density as low as possible, right? Which is kind of the idea here. I mean, we also have to make the numbers work, you know, expensive piece of property. Some places it's more appropriate to pack it in, you know, how dense can you get it, you know? But again, everything must be off-grid first, sustainable first, regenerative first. A lot of buildings we've done, the grid exists at the property. So we'll connect, but it's a backup. And you know, there's places around town that can be appropriate. Again, everyone has their different perspective and opinion, but more appropriate to get dense, right, on small pieces of land. You know, relative to workforce housing, I know the hospital wants to grow, but they can't because there's not enough housing. And you know, just to make a point real quick is that green, just to use that word loosely, green buildings are more popular every year. So that asset builds every year. That building becomes more valuable. So banks, insurance companies, and fire departments like them better. It's a lower risk when they lend out the money. They'll be resilient to disasters and all that. So when we have buildings that are off-grid, whether it's in a low density or high density, they're not going to lose power, right? They'll always be warm. So it's a better investment, which gets back to that other question that you have. Why, you know, why? What's the details about the group and all that? We were looking at other pieces of property here before I even knew about Trevor, and even during, you know, and then it got real. I'm still looking at those properties. And there are other opportunities to do things that might have a different look or a different feel or a different density that might meet needs in a certain area. right? So it's a very good point, there's also, I think, the town and the county are redoing all of their codes and zoning regulations now also with an outside entity, which I'm not a fan of, it should be just done by us, because we live in Taos. But, I have my opinions. And I'm understanding that that's at the earliest gonna happen by October. So I'm hoping to get some of these things into that, to have requirements and incentives and support for green stuff and all that. Yes?
I want to echo the genuine feelings of the intention that you're putting into this, and I can only imagine how it is managing so many different parts and pieces as you're bringing together this, investment and attention into bridging this to what the community actually needs. So thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And two things that I hear and have resonated with me is that piece of who's really a benefit of this plan. And I think there's such a great opportunity to bridge that for this community. And the saying that's been coming into my mind is, we are borrowing this land from our ancestors, or from our indigenous relatives, we're borrowing from our children. And so really being true within yourself of how can this, not just benefit us in this immediate crisis we're in, but how is this really sustainable for the generations to come? I think is
Exactly.
the real aspect.
Right on, yeah. Yeah, because
Yeah. And also, there's like a really important piece too, is the embodied carbon that's going into this as well. What is the literal foundation of which this is all coming to be built on? And I agree, like concrete is not the best thing. And I know, ground fragility is huge here, and something that I was probably passionate about in the last year or so is hempcrete. And I'm curious, just your background, just your, understanding. I'm curious if you consider working with hempcrete at all, because that could also be something that could be grown on the land and be used for a number of resources as well.
Exactly, that's a good point. No stick frame, no straw bale, probably not cod, but everything else. Roster block, hempcrete, there's a lot of amazing things. A lot of it I don't know a lot about. I know rammed earth, and touch. I'm familiar with concrete, not an expert on it. Concrete, Scott McCarty and his kids. So that's what I'm saying. We want to, together we're strong is our thing about our company. And that's the only way to do this. All of us together, right? So that gets into the potential partnership with you and Taos that I'm talking to. Just some early conversations of researching and documenting that. Like, here's the big list, the dream of all the materials, not to mention, worm farms and biochar and all the stuff with food and regenerating soil. So let's do that. Let's incorporate it all. Let's showcase it. Let's raise the awareness. We've been inundated with clients in LA after the LA fires that want off-grid and eco things now. It's an opportunity. And so it's the same thing. It's like, well, since we have this potential opportunity, what should we build out of? Concrete's obvious because it's fire resistant, but cob, right? Even though I'm not personally offended, but hempcrete, roster block, alternatives, not stick frame. There are two buildings I was thinking of. One is in Palisades, one was in Pasadena. Passive house, concrete, or stucco on the outside. They were there. Everything else, gone, quick. So that's very important to showcase all of these different building materials. What we call conventional is really an alternative. If you look at the timeline and the span of everyone building, especially for over 1,000 years, all of these things are actually conventional. That's the alternative. It's in a much briefer amount of time. That's now hemp is an amazing material. I get the hempcrete thing, but hemp has the highest R value of anything that insulates. It's a renewable product, and all that stuff, and all of it is associated with it, but specifically hemp. So we're working with a company called Hemp Detection. We put an order in on 2 of our jobs that we did. It was a small order, and we got hemp bat installation. It's great, you don't have to wear a mask, you can use it, it's got a great R value, it's not pink. I mean, real mint or pink or whatever, but it's not far from us, it's not bad. We used it, great. So then we put an order in for a lot more, and that was before this. All bat installation in this will be hemp. They don't have it quite figured out for rigid installation, which is what we always do in our roofs, polyiso, 2 layers of 4 inch, which is on 50, which is a good amount of insulation. So we're working with them for the rigid. We put an order in for a lot. That's like, that's more than we do in a year. So can you help us grow? Opportunity, who had, there's the flipper. That's the first thing I think of. So I can bring all that business and your sensitivities about marijuana and have there that we learned so now we need a place to grow thousands and thousands of acres of hemp to meet a potential order that we might have, let alone all the clients of protection. They have a processing plant where they strip it all down and it's strong and straw. But those are the next steps. So I need land to grow hemp for hemp protection so that we can get our bad hemp insulation done. I can do smaller now, but I'm glad you brought up the hemp thing because that's what we're kind of trying to do. And with even Taos and others to do that research and raise awareness. This is an opportunity for others for all of those independents. Yeah, thank you. Anybody else?
Just real quick on the hemp, we made a pipe line, for the block, and it was way lower than what any forest fire would have been. And it wasn't a big thing, it was just, turned to ash.
The hemp is amazing.
I mean, it's not good. That's not good. That's not good. Yeah.
Oh, the burning.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it was lower. It was like lower than what any forest fire would have been. We were just playing around with it, because we hosted a hamsters meeting. All the hamsters people, the whole group came. Scott the Pigment Hunter was the one who gave us that block. He did it. And we just tested it, and it singed right up.
Yeah, so we got to look at that.
Mm-hmm.
So that we can take advantage of all the insulated qualities, let alone that it doesn't mold.
But they also did do tests with the geopolymers where they're sitting on it over a minute, 3,000 degree plus torch.
Well, that was for like
There's all kinds of different things. Like we can make completely fireproof, resilient structures, and then with the earthworks, shaping the land to hold on to the water, building new forests.
Right.
Like that's.
So a lot of that, we want to try and do here, but we also have to be sensitive that this doesn't turn into like a full-on research thing. It's kind of be messy, So we'll find a happy medium there, but this is the project we're looking at, and there's different areas like his question where certain things might be more preferred. Do you have that hand up?
No,
I
it's
was
just,
gonna say
thank you.
Okay. Yeah, okay, I think we'll close it up. There are other meetings planned soon. March 8th at the TCA, and then the week before that, just
March 1st.
March 1st, yeah.
at the Wildflower Playhouse.
Yeah, Wildflower Playhouse. So check it out on the website, pangeaprojects.com. Thank you so much. Oh, you had a question?
Do you have a website where you're going to post like videos?
TaosCommunity.org.
What's that?
TaosCommunity.org. Yeah, so I'm keeping media coverage, everything there, recordings of these, podcasts that we do, everything's gonna be there. Yes?
I just had a reflection for the comment that I just made about us not borrowing this land from our ancestors or indigenous relatives, and that's also true. Like here as a white woman, we are also borrowing this land from indigenous relatives, and so I just wanted to
offer that reflection for the business from last month. I think that's also important to, what you are also processing and you working through.
Yeah, processing your food program.
And also, as a mom, I'm just thinking about that, and making sure that all of our children and what they're hearing and what we're doing at this time.
Yeah, exactly. Good. Well, thank you everyone for being here. I know it was a long